Our true crime podcast will begin in just a moment, but first a word of caution. Jen and Cam are about to discuss the graphic and shocking details of another true crime. In the event that a young child or an individual with chronic anxiety or a heart condition is listening, we urge you to switch off your streaming device now.
Hi, Jen.
Hey, Cam. How are you?
I'm pretty darn good. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Oh,
got a little allergy going today, so my voice might sound a little crazy. But, you know,
okay,
it's good. That means the flowers are going to start blooming and we'll have some nicer weather.
I was just going to say it's going to be spring in the Midwest, which brings birds, butterflies, and flowers, and also
Kleenex.
allergies. Yep.
lots of Kleenex and Benadryl. Woohoo!
Yes, totally.
Hey, I got a real quick thing to say real quick.
Yes, please.
In my last episode, somebody commented, and I did, and it's my fault. I said Paul Bernardino instead of Paul Bernardo. It was a slip of the tongue. I apologize. I knew it was Paul Bernardo, but I also know somebody whose last name is Bernardino, so it just kind of
went together. I got you. I didn't catch it either, so.
I know, so it's all your fault. I blame you.
It is. Speaking of my fault, Jen, I would just like to say, we've been friends forever, and if you listen to this podcast, you know that. You and I have our
Close
own
to
language.
40 years. Yeah.
That's 10 on my half, but okay. Your husband has made fun of us because he said it's hard to hang out with us because we kind of speak our own language.
Yes.
Meaning we can say certain things and we don't have to finish sentences, or we can just use slang.
We have our own code. It's almost like that secret language of twins type thing, but we're not twins.
Yes.
Because I'm cuter, and obviously, and smarter.
Obviously. We had a review that said they gave us 3 stars because I say whatever. And I just wanted to...
She's not wrong. She's not wrong.
No. This is what I explained to you today. I totally understand because it is my slang, and I get that. But it's also, for me, it's very much like the F word. It can have different connotations depending on what I'm talking about. So, for instance, if you know me, you know what this means. So if I'm upset with somebody and like we're in a conversation and I disagree with them, or I'm so upset with them I can't talk to them, a lot of times I'll just be like, whatever, meaning like, I'm fine, whatever, just stop talking, right? It can also mean like very whatever, like, you know, I don't understand why that person did that. But c'est la vie, whatever, meaning like to each their own, right? Now, in regards to this podcast, I'm guessing when I say whatever, it's usually at the end of something that was described that's a little bothersome, or I just don't understand it, meaning, you know, a mother that beats to death her baby, and then she says, you know, she didn't know it was her, it was a ghost, and then it comes out it was drugs. And then I go through this big spiel, and then I say, whatever. Now, that whatever is the F off to the person that we're talking about, right? That is in regards to that I just can't believe people exist in this world, and I can't even be bothered with it. And so to the person that said that, I apologize. I know a lot of times as Jen and I are recording this, I'll ad-lib a little bit. I know Jen understands what I'm saying, but probably people don't. And so it kind of... I'm trying.
And sometimes we just kind of forget. We get in our own world and we're just talking like it's a normal, everyday conversation for us. So we do apologize. We will try to do better or whatever. No, just kidding. But when we first were trying to come up with a name before we got the marvelous idea to call it Our True Crime Podcast, my husband gave us an idea, said, you guys should call it whatever, or you know what I'm talking about, or you know what I mean, or whatever. So it is just part of our vernacular that we use, and we'll try to do better.
It's one of those words, like I said, instead of cursing or cussing, however you say it from wherever you are, sometimes I say whatever because I'm just like, I'm over it and I can't even, if you will. Right. So I do apologize. And sometimes, especially if I'm not reading what I wrote, or I start to change it as I'm actually speaking it, I do tend to use a little more slang, and I apologize. I'm old. I'm a high school teacher. I should know better, but I don't. And so for that, I am truly sorry. And we all know my other word that is right. And I'm trying. And so, the word so.
But thank you for the feedback. We really appreciate it. We love that kind of feedback. It's very constructive. It lets us know how you guys feel. Mm-hmm. And it is something that we can change, and we will change it. But if you're upset the way we sound, we can't help you.
Yeah.
But we appreciate all the reviews.
White women with voices. I can't.
We won't go into that.
We're kind of stuck with that. That was another review, which obviously we cannot do anything about that. No. And so that doesn't help us.
But we do appreciate all the constructive criticism that's given, and we do appreciate all the 5-star reviews. We appreciate most reviews that are left. So keep doing it. We'll appreciate you.
Keep on keeping
more than we do now. Got something good for us today, Kim?
Jen, let me tell you. This story...
Is it another humdinger? Don't tell me you've got a humdinger for me.
Well, this one is just, it's not so much a humdinger as it's just, I don't know. Let me tell you. I think all of us are a little enamored. I don't know if that would be the right word, but with the old money. And I'm talking money that comes
more
from
than a week old.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. But it's handed down generation to generation. It's just a whole different society that these kind of people live in. It's a whole different world. These people are raised with the finest schooling, with the finest boarding schools. Everything that money can buy, they have. But yet, they don't ever really need to get a job. They don't need a career. Their job is to be a socialite or to be the upper echelon, the blue bloods of America. And so I just kind of ventured down that. And to tell you the truth, I can't even remember where I found this. I stumbled upon it somewhere, and then that's how that happens a lot with me. So here we go.
Rabbit
You ready
holes?
to go? Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
And this is a little bit longer episode, but it has some history that it comes from the family. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. In fact, that's probably, as we've talked about on the show, I love the research and the writing. I love that. That's my favorite part. The rabbit holes that you get sidetracked going down. It's just interesting to me. So I hope everybody enjoys this, and here we go. You ready?
I am.
Today, we are beginning our case at the Del Mar Resort Hotel in Las Vegas, and it is far from a resort, let me tell you. It's the kind of hotel that rents by the hour, and adult movies are included in your room rental, Jen.
Oh, it's a no-tell motel.
It is the no-tell motel. The hotel has the usual cast of seedy characters that you would expect on a regular rotation. Now, if this hotel sounds a little familiar to you, and this was rabbit hole number 1 I went down, it is because it's the same hotel that the actor David Strickland, who you may remember from Suddenly Susan fame, he had killed himself in this very hotel. And so when I first started, I was like, that seems a little familiar, and then this is why. So then I had to go look up David Strickland and his drug problems and all that. So that's rabbit hole number 1. So the Del Mar obviously is no stranger to despair and darkness. So on August 5th, 1998, when a couple checks into the hotel and report to the front desk that there is a putrid smell coming from the air conditioner.
Yeah, that's never a good thing.
Not a good sign. It is not exactly out of the ordinary because people have been known to die in the rooms in and around the hotel.
You know, I used to work at a hotel when I was right out of high school. And I worked there for 2 years, and there were 3 deaths in that hotel. 1 was suicide, I believe, and 2 were natural deaths. So it happens, not just at the Cecil Hotel. It happens everywhere. So even though it wasn't abnormal to have somebody pass away or kill themselves or be killed in a room, what was out of the ordinary was that the body was located inside the air conditioning ductwork, making this not only a murder, but the dead woman is at the center of what would become yet another huge scandal involving one of the richest American families ever to grace the East Coast. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a doozy. The DuPonts. Now we know where this is going. So this is from the DuPont dynasty, and we're going to talk about that. The DuPonts are a well-established name in U.S. history, starting during the mid-19th century. the family patriarch, a French immigrant by the name of, and you ready? I think I really nailed this one thanks to
I'm sure you did.
pronouncenames.com. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Elotier Irene Dupont. Yeah.
Wow, that flew so gracefully out of your mouth. It just rolled right off your tongue.
Elotier Irene Dupont.
Very nice.
Thanks.
Go for you.
Born 1771, died in 1834. He was an immigrant from France that came over to America, and he started the company, the DuPont Chemical Company, in 1802. Now, he was very open about his beliefs, I guess, that the family should marry each other so that the fortune would stay inside the family. And that's not unheard of. Royal families used to do that, hence where the blood clotting disease, hemophilia, was thought to have come because of the inbreeding and the intermarriages within the family. He wanted this for his family over here in the States. So they were close knit. But again, you also, when you have this much money, I'm sure you kind of not only want it to stay in the family, but I would think you'd be a little untrusting of those not in the family.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know I am.
Yeah, me too. All $5. The family made its initial wealth in gunpowder, but had to expand into chemicals and automotive industries as that came about. Now, the DuPont company can be thanked for, and this is a rabbit hole, creating nylon, rayon, and Kevlar.
And nonstick pans.
One company, that's just amazing to me. In 2017, DuPont merged with the Dow Company, and according to Forbes magazine, in 2020, the DuPont family fortune is estimated to be around $16 billion.
Wow. By today's standard, or?
Yeah, this was just 2020. Lisa Dean was born on November 30th, 1928 in Wilmington, Delaware, to Paulina DuPont Dean, who was the daughter of William K. DuPont, whose great-grandfather founded DuPont, which was the nice French name that I said earlier. And her father was a man by the name of Junius Simpson Dean. Lisa grew up with all the best the world had to offer. Private schools with other rich heirs and heiresses, debutantes parties, high society balls. Lisa learned early on the importance of being refined and what it meant to carry such a well-known name. Now, this is what I just talked about earlier with that whole lifestyle and just all of it. It's just so much money and just a different world. We'll talk
you
about
would
that
not ever relate to the common man ever. I mean, you don't have to worry about, with $16 billion, you never have to worry about anything ever again.
And the DuPonts have done really well at keeping the family within the workings rather than selling it.
No, I don't even think you can
do with it.
You couldn't even spend $1 billion in your lifetime.
I'd like to try.
Oh God, I would love to. I would be starling as a rich person.
Oh, me too, Jen. Me too.
I could do that. I could kick that shit out of the park. That's one thing I'm good at.
I guess that's my point with all of this, is that to inherit this money, they never have to work. They don't need a career, even though they go to Harvard or Yale or...
Because it's breeding. Yeah.
It's just, yeah. After college, Lisa moved to New York City, where she hung out with people of her same caliber. And if you were in these circles, you knew who Lisa was. She was very slender with jet black combed away from her hair face. Nope. I said that wrong. Because I was trying to get, in my head, when I pictured this person and then I looked him up, I'm like, yep, exactly. That rich haircut is that the older women, they get it when they're young and then they keep it all through their life. So they have that socialite look. It's a bob, but it's kind of teased up a little bit and it's perfectly, perfectly round. Coiffed. Yes. And it stays the same style. So that's exactly what she looked like.
Maybe that's where we went wrong.
I think it is. When she died, like the year she died, she still had the same hairdo, but she just put a beret in it.
That works.
In 1952, Lisa Dean met an outgoing society man by the name of E. Herring. He went by the nickname Red because he had red hair. Candor. Now, Red, as he was known to his friends, was described in the documentary that I watched. And I love this because I've never heard this term, but it just applies. Well, it applies to a lot of people we know, male, female, and all of those in between. And it's that inherently people are drawn to you. So the lady that was describing him said that he was a man who got around a lot and was simply catnip to the ladies. That made me laugh. cat name because that's...
Yeah.
The couple would marry the following year, making Red the first of her 3 husbands, and that would be Lisa Dean. The couple would have a son named Peter in 1954, and 3 years later, a second son named Simpson Dean, but he would go by Dean.
Makes sense.
It was after the birth of Dean that Lisa shocked her society friends and left Red for another man. That man is her OBGYN, exactly.
Oh.
The doctor that would deliver Dean, the baby. And his name was Dr. John McGagan. Now, he was married at the time, but so was she. He did fall hard and fast for Lisa. I mean, he was sort of the OBGYN gynecologist to many of the ladies that had a lot of
I can't even pronounce it.
Echelon.
Thank
However,
you.
I already used that word earlier, so that's what I was trying
sorry.
to... You can only say upper crust, blue blood, rich. You know, there's only so many
Filthy
words
rich.
for it. Stinking rich. All right. The couple moved to an apartment on Park Avenue. Now, that was actually Lisa's apartment, but he moved in with her. Red, who was furious, served Lisa with papers for divorce on the grounds of adultery, which I guess she did. The case would be dropped when Red just did something that wasn't very smart. Now, he was clearly upset, but he decided to take Peter, the oldest boy, to vacation to Venezuela and Brazil and the south of France, all without asking. So he basically kidnapped his son. Red would be caught 4 months later in France. I believe it was in Nice, south of France. Nice, I believe. And Peter was returned to Lisa.
So wait, they were getting a divorce when he did that?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. She served him with papers, and in return, he stole his child and flew to Venezuela, then Brazil, and to the south
But if
of
they're
France.
still married, is it really kidnapping?
Well, he took the child without leaving, so yes. I mean, without telling her. It would be like, you know,
Yeah.
there's custody and visitation rights and all that. And he took him for 4 months without saying where he was.
Yeah, that's a little shitty.
Yeah, it's a little bad. So Red was sentenced to 120 days for contempt of court. He would serve 80 days, and he would end up also with 2 years probation after paying a fine of $47,000.
Petty cash.
Well, speaking of petty, Lisa and her doctor did get married, and when they did, they decided to change the boy's last name from Red's last name to the doctor's last name, and I would have a huge problem with that. I think most people probably would.
I guess they couldn't legally do that, though, without the father's permission.
They have money. They do whatever
That's
they
true.
want. And this was a different time.
I'm sorry.
Too.
I'm so silly. I'm just thinking how real people would do it. Normal people would do it.
Lisa also banned Red from ever seeing the boys. Again, ever. The couple, Lisa and Dr. John, would live in New York City for a while, and then they kind of got tired of that, so they decided to return to Delaware, where they would live on the DuPont estate called Serendip, like serendipity, but without the ippity. Now, Serendip was built in 1939, which sold in 2018 for a cool $1.35 million. I was like, well, that doesn't seem as if that's a lot of money. And it's not. But if you go look at this mansion, it was built in 1939, and you got to think about that in 1939. It looks like an old, rich mansion. It's on tons of acreage. It's got the stonework, the ivy. It's beautiful, but not really by today's standards. It would have to,
it's small.
Yeah, for them. But back then, that would be huge because, you know, there's like the guest house in the back, the stables. I mean, this was an estate. Also, just a little side note before I forget, when Red died, he only claimed Peter as his child. He didn't claim the second child. And I'm not really sure why. And I couldn't figure that out. I don't know if he maybe thought Dean was either the doctor's or somebody else's. I don't know. But I found that interesting because I didn't find that till later. And that he only stole Peter when he took him away. He didn't take Dean.
He didn't really have a chance to bond with the other child either.
Probably. And
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
yes. When the boys reached their teen years, trouble came a-calling for him. By early in his teens, Peter had been kicked out of more than one private school, and by age just 14, 15-ish, he would develop a cocaine habit of $100 a day. Again, this is, you know, trust fund money. right?
Mhm.
So they don't have to work. They don't have to do anything. And it's sad to me. You see this happen again and again. Dean was turning out pretty much the same way as his older brother. Dean also had been kicked out of a few private schools, but when he started attending the University of Virginia, he became known as the Coke King.
Ooh.
Dean had...
Everybody loves a title.
Dean had been arrested at least 2 times for dealing drugs on campus, in college, rather. And his mother would step in and make it all better because that's what moms do. And then moms with money really make everything go away. Lisa, as you'll see, she tended to look the other way a lot. We'll get into that in a little bit. In 1985, tragedy struck when Dr. John McGagan died of a heart attack, leaving Lisa alone once again. Now, she's not going to stay single for too long. Also, I want to just say this because I found it interesting and I need your thoughts. Perhaps due to her status of being a blue blood, an aristocrat, if you will, or perhaps she was just really heartbroken, she did not attend her husband's funeral at all. She didn't go in there. What do you think about that? Do you have thoughts on that?
Not attending her husband's funeral?
Mm-hmm.
Was it a big public funeral? Was it just a...
It was, I mean, he was a well-known doctor in Manhattan and the East Coast, that area.
Yeah, I think it's odd, but maybe she was just so devastated. I don't know. I can't really judge. I hate funerals.
Because this comes
but
up.
I would go to my husband.
This comes up again later. And
not if I killed my husband, but yeah, I'd go to the funeral.
Well, you probably should go then because they're going to be looking for you. And if you don't go, it's going to be suspicious. You know what I'm saying?
I might be in a cell already.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think it's odd, but hopefully there's reasons. Hopefully, maybe she didn't want to be with the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she was devastated by it, but I do find it odd that she wasn't there. But we don't know the reason for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, stay tuned, Jen. We'll get back to that.
Okay.
In 1988, Lisa, who had been nourishing her love of gardening since leaving New York City, placed an ad in the local paper looking for help. The ad asked for a groundskeeper and occasional chauffeur. She wanted somebody to help take care of the yard work and the yard work. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
A man by the name of Christopher Mosley applied for the position, and he got it. All of it. Christopher Mosley is 11 years younger than Lisa, but we all know, Jen, love is ageless, especially when one of
your lady garden needs a gardener.
Well, especially when your lady gardener has lots and lots of money, too. It wasn't long before the gardener of the house became the man of the house, moving from the shed to the mansion. Lisa and...
Moving on up.
That's the exact same song I sang when I wrote that paragraph. Really. Lisa and Christopher would marry in 1989. He was from a good family. They weren't way over the top, but they had some money. They were from Long Island. They were from Long Island. His father was an executive vice president of J.P. Morgan. So they had some money. They're not hurting on money, but this is nowhere near the money of the DuPont dynasty. Right. Christopher was considered a bit of a black sheep in his family. He attended a prep school, but failed to graduate. When he turned 18, he joined the Army, where he made a career out of it, working as a communications expert. He was discharged in 1985, and I don't know anything about the military, and I meant to ask our listeners, but this seemed to be a big deal, so I left it in there. He was discharged in 1985, only making it to the rank of first sergeant. And I'm guessing if you stay in there that long, you probably should have made it up higher than that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Me neither.
But you can let us know. We'd love to hear your
somebody
replies.
Will know. And I'm just guessing if you stay in it that long, you would be higher than that. That's the way it was written. So, Dean,
especially if you had money, you would think that you could get boosted,
yes.
Right?
Yes. So Lisa's son.
It's all who you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they know everybody. And then they don't know, they have money to buy it, right? Buy it, whatever they want.
Right.
Lisa's sons, Dean and Peter, were said to have disliked Christopher a lot. In all of Lisa's marriages, she wore the pants, probably because she was the one with all the money. Lisa called the shots for not only her husbands, but her sons. They needed to play the game and fall in line with her. That was the way it had always worked, and that is the way it would continue to work. Now, if you didn't abide by Lisa, well, she could always get rid of you faster than a natty light at a NASCAR race. I was really proud of that. I made that up.
They're very funny.
But
you love your natties. Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
It says to become a sergeant first class, you need at least 6 years of service in the Army.
And he was in there for...
Although most individuals at this rank have more than 15 years of military experience.
Oh, so it's not that bad. It seemed like
they made it seem like it was a lesser accomplishment than...
Correct.
Yeah.
Here's an example of what I mean about Lisa just deciding to get rid of you if she didn't like you. Here we go. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
In 1991, Dean met a TV production bookkeeper named Linda Youngstrom Pleisha. Positive that last name's wrong, but there you go. They had met at a Palm Springs nightclub. Linda, who had a son from a previous marriage, fell hard and fast for Dean, and the two were married just a year later at Serendip. Lisa did not like Linda. Linda, who went by the nickname Rags, stated that Lisa just simply never spoke to her. Her name, Rags, came from her love of reggae music. Can you imagine marrying somebody and that his mother or her mother just wouldn't talk to you ever? And that's how it was. God. Lisa wanted a socialite from the upper crust, and Rags was just a middle-class girl from Colorado. If this was not going to be the dream life that she'd hoped for, she became well aware the night before her wedding. Listen to the story.
Okay.
Dean's drug-addled brother, Peter, was Dean's best man. Well, he was fired that night because of what he did. He showed up at their house. This was the estate that they were going to get married in, Serendip, and he was drunk and high on codeine. Peter was forbidden to ever stay in that house because of his drug problems, but that's okay. He wanted to see his brother. So he scaled the wall and busted in the bedroom window and proceeded to get in a fist fight with Dean, you know, the groom, the guy that's getting married the very next day.
Nice.
Peter had already been forbidden to stay in the house, like I said, because his mother was like, And this was the final straw. Lisa kicked him out, and another guest stepped in to be Dean's best man. How sad is that? This is the family Rags is marrying into. I would have been like,
Thank you. No, thank you.
After the wedding, Dean and Rags would move into another palatial DuPont estate near Lisa's house called Louviers. French, Louviers, right? Dean got busy doing what he did prior to the marriage, and this is, running through his trust fund money to party and do a lot of drugs. Dean was quickly spiraling out of control, and Lisa didn't care to step in and fix the issue. Like I said earlier, Lisa tended to look the other way when it came to her sons and their bad behavior or bad behavior she didn't want to acknowledge. However, she did have a very controlling nature, I guess is the best we can say about that. And we're going to see that in a minute. As Dean was spiraling out of control, his new wife, Rags, is devastated. She didn't sign up for this. So she's really hoping Lisa would step in and give her some help. When Lisa's son, which was Dean's brother, Peter, died from a heroin overdose in 1985, you would think that Lisa would maybe see the seriousness of Dean's problem. But she did not. Rags, who was still desperately in love with Dean, wanted him to get help. So she knew that her and Lisa did not have a good relationship, but she needed to do something, try to get Dean some help. Now, it's about this time that rumors began to circle that Dean was HIV positive, but Rags wanted to stay with him and make it work. Just like she did with her second husband, Lisa would not attend the funeral of her son. She did not go to her son's funeral. This is why this is so interesting to me. I think, from what I can see, this is the new money versus old money, right? There was a certain way people with old money were expected to behave. You can kind of see this with the monarchy right now with Prince Harry and Meghan versus them, the old way of doing things versus the new way. I couldn't help but think about them too. But Lisa was supposed to be a socialite. She's seen, she's very elegant, and to be crying and out of control at a funeral would not be what they would want her to do or for her. I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect that's why she did not attend the funerals. because she might have lost control, meaning cry. Like,
and she has to look and be a certain way.
Mm-hmm. And like the husband, I kind of had a problem with, but then when I read that she didn't even go to her own son's funeral, I was like, okay. It bothered me. Rags, finally, she got up the nerve and she went to Lisa, Dean's mom, and asked if Lisa could demand that Dean go to rehab. Lisa said, no, absolutely not. Rehab is a waste of time and money. And she said that, no, she was not going to do that. And in fact, you need to just let Dean do whatever he wants to do. That's what she told Rags. Now, this is her son. She just lost one to drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, in 1996, Dean consented and left Louviers to go to a drug rehab. And Lisa saw her chance, and she made her move. Just like getting rid of those natty lights at NASCAR, she marched into that mansion, and she demanded that, you got to go. You are no longer welcome here. And in fact, don't even bother to call us. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, she made her husband, wink, wink, Christopher, come with her basically with a clipboard. And they went through that mansion to make sure that Rags would not steal any of the heirlooms or anything worth money. So she had Christopher pretty much marching after her saying, this is mine, this can go. Now you know why I said she gets rid of things that she doesn't like faster than a natty at NASCAR. At this point, I'm pretty sure that I made it clear that Lisa did not approve of Rags, but is that going to change? Compared to Rags, Dean's new girlfriend that he met in rehab is going to make Lisa's blood boil. When Dean returned from rehab, he lost Rags, his wife. He was going to try to divorce her, but that comes up in a minute. But he had with him a new friend named Pati Margello. If Lisa was a symbol that represented the top of the wealthy elite, Jen, Pati represented the very bottom. Pati was described as an underweight, they said anorexic, but I couldn't really prove that. Underweight junkie with no teeth. She had no teeth. Pati was said to be a very attractive person, in her earlier days, but years of drug abuse had taken its toll. Pati had grown up in a working class neighborhood in South Philly. By her early 20s, Pati was big on the club scene, and her good looks let her go anywhere she wanted. As is often the case, the nonstop fun takes a dark turn sooner or later, and Pati started doing cocaine and crystal meth and lots of it.
Yeah. Drugs are bad, man.
Drugs are bad.
Yeah, and I was going to say, in some rehab places, unless you go to the upper crust ones, you're not going to find the high society drug addicts, right? You're going to get the baseline.
Yeah, the street junkies, basically.
Not that there's anything wrong with them at all, but if you are a DuPont, I can only imagine how they would she'd be snubbed. Seriously.
As I mentioned, Jen, the fun finally stopped, and Pati soon turned into a drug addict. She had a severe drug problem. As we know and have seen all too often on the podcast, the habits need to be supported, and she supported her habits by, I guess, performing sexual favors for people in exchange for money or drugs.
It seems common.
Dean and Pati were living at the 150-year-old Louviers mansion, and they were taking drugs day and night and trashing the estate. One of the articles I read said that when they finally got in there, there was dog feces everywhere, all over. They just never even let the dogs out to go to the bathroom. And this is a 150-year-old, beautiful, beautiful mansion.
Yeah, that happens too.
With the drugs. Yes, it does. Lisa was furious and kicked the couple out immediately. With nowhere else to go, the couple rented a row house in South Philly. Lisa cut off the finances by freezing Dean's trust fund, and she was hoping Dean would dump Pati because he had no money. But in fact, that did the opposite. It only made Dean's relationship with Pati stronger. A little vision here, a little image, if you will, is this, and I can't imagine this. Lisa would send her people, her assistants, people that work for her, to South Philly with specific instructions, and that was that they needed to go find Dean and deliver notes to him, letters, begging him to leave Patti and come back home. Now, I can only imagine the drug addicts, the homeless people, they're all sitting there thinking, why are all these people in fancy cars looking for our drug addict friend, Dean? Having no idea that Dean was a DuPont and he was worth about $25 million.
Wow.
Because they're in this tiny, it's a shack. You know, St. Louis has a lot of those little row houses. It's a little tiny.
Now that's really the millionaire next door right there.
And that in my head, I kept seeing the image of their drug buddy he's a millionaire, but he's not only a millionaire, he's an heir to one of America's largest dynasties.
Like a Howard Hughes type.
So while all this was taking place, Rags, they're not yet divorced, but trying to. Obviously, Dean's family, Lisa and Christopher, want Dean away from Rags, but also Patti. But during this time, Rags goes and sues for spousal support, and she won $4,000 a month. Now, this really had to make Lisa mad because she didn't want to give up the money. She didn't like Rags, and that would later be overturned. And in the end, I think Rags was pretty destitute. She didn't have any money. She got no money from them. Here's where our story gets down to the nitty-gritty, Jen. In an effort for Dean to be able to divorce Rags with little fanfare and get a quick divorce, he needed to go to Las Vegas, where I'm guessing that they're going to be able to provide a quicker divorce, say, than, Missouri. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
So Christopher and Lisa come up with this idea. They think, we're going to send Dean, who at this point is 42 years old. We're going to send him to Las Vegas, give him a little money. We're going to put him up in the Hilton Hotel, and he will get to claim residency after only 6 weeks, and then we can get that super duper fast divorce, and everything will be great. Right. Lisa decides to send Christopher Mosley with him. And remember now, Dean and Christopher, they don't really like each other at all. There's no love lost there. But Christopher's going to go out there and keep an eye on Dean, make sure he stays on the straight and narrow. Christopher was given a lump sum of money to keep an eye on Dean and keep him living the life a rich man would be accustomed. Christopher took his new mission so serious, Jen, he even gave it a name, a military name, Operation Dean.
Wow. That's punchy.
Now, maybe it's me. Don't think I'd be sending a drug addict to Vegas. I just don't think that's a good idea at all. I think I'd pick a different city, but call me crazy.
You think?
Yes, I do. Dean and Christopher would be staying at the Hilton, and hopes were high that Dean would stay off drugs. But within the week, Dean actually spent all of his time high and ran through a lot of money. I saw different amounts, but it said around the $7,000 range. That's a lot of money in a week. You're not paying for the hotel. You're blowing it. Like, that's drugs, alcohol, and gambling. The second week, Dean, he decided to fly Patti out to meet him. He brought Patti out to Vegas. Now, needless to say, Operation Dean should have been renamed Operation Dud. Under the stress of it all, Christopher started drinking, and drinking a lot. One of the hotel people had said that they had never not seen him drunk. So he was drinking all day and all night. So not only was Dean doing whatever he wanted, he had the money to do it, and Christopher he's at a loss. He can't go home to Lisa and say, I failed on Operation Dean. So Christopher, he comes up with an idea. He's going to bribe Patti. He's going to bribe Patti with money. All you have to do is leave Dean. And Patti agreed. Of course she agreed.
Of course she did.
And she took the money. Patti left Dean for the casino and the bar where she and Dean spent all the money doing everything they wanted.
Good for them.
So Christopher tried this a few times before he finally realized, yeah, Patty's not going to be leaving. She's not going anywhere, but she's more than willing to take the money. And she did.
Of course.
And so, yeah. Christopher would make threats such as, I'm going to get rid of you once and for all. But Patti, she was a drug addict. She had some street smarts, and, she would just come back yelling louder about telling him where to get off.
She's not afraid of speaking out.
Exactly.
There's no way.
What are you going to do? I'm dating Dean.
She's been on the streets for a little bit too long. Now she's not that social, demure type folk. I don't think they understood what they were getting into. But
here's where our story takes a turn, which you can't make this stuff up. Christopher is at a loss about what to do, but that's soon going to be changing courtesy of a woman he meets by the name of Diana Haranaga. Now, Diana, Jen,
That's not French.
No, that is not. And she has quite the history. Diana, better known by her stage name of Kiani Lee, used to be a star, Jen, stars in her eyes. You may remember her from such classics as Anal House Party and Mechanical Orgasm Machine. But
wow,
her porn star was fading. Diana had taken to hanging out and offering her services as a sex worker to many tourists and locals in and around the hotel lobbies of the Vegas hotels. This is how she met a man by the name of Christopher Mosley. Diana took note of Christopher because he seemed to be tossing around a lot of money, meaning, of course, he was attracted to her immediately. It would be later that Diana would learn Christopher was not, in fact, rich himself, but he married into money, and that money was huge. Christopher Mosley, as we know, is the husband of Lisa Dean, the heiress to the DuPont dynasty, and Diana was about to help out Christopher on Operation Dean. Christopher had promised Diana that if she helped him out and was successful, he would continue to use her on future missions. You can't make this up. Now, I'm guessing Christopher forgot that he's a gardening house husband and he is not some secretive CIA operative, but if he was, we wouldn't know, would we? Because he would be secretive and we wouldn't know about that. But he's not. He's a gardening house husband. Diana would be given $5,000 for her part at first. Now, later in court, Christopher Mosley said that she took that money because she was late on her parole payments, which I didn't even really know there was parole payments. But Diana disagreed and said that that was not true. She took that money and she had received that money for secretarial work. I don't really think it...
Well, tomato, right?
I guess it's the $5,000 you got for your part in this scheme, or is it where'd it come from?
A roses by any other name.
The plan started innocently enough at first. Diana would become BFFs with Patti and then talk Patti into leaving Dean. Seems so simple. Whatever could go wrong? Except Patti didn't need or want a new friend. This wasn't working. So Christopher was getting upset, and what he decided to do next was, well, murder.
Of course, because you're listening to it here.
Thank you. The new and improved Operation Dean would be this. Diana and Christopher would hire 2 acquaintances of Diana's who would then assist in this new plan. Christopher, in order to have an alibi and possibly a clear conscience, hopped on a plane and he flew back home to Delaware while all of this is going to take place. During the late hours of August 1st, 1998, Diana would call Patti and tell her that 2 high rollers wanted some lady company for the evening, and they were willing to pay big bucks for it. The 2 high rollers were, in fact, a 40-year-old convicted drug dealer, Ricardo Margello, who also just happened to be Diana's boyfriend, and Joseph Balagnese, a 27-year-old unemployed dishwasher. Sounds kind of like the high rollers you and I'd pick up. Am I right?
Probably. Wink, wink.
After midnight, Diana, Ricardo, Joseph, and Patti would drive to the Del Mar Resort Hotel, renting the hotel room for a 3-hour period, which would cost them $30. 3 hours, $30, $10 an hour. Diana had made it sound like they would entertain these high rollers and then leave and spend their fortunes, all the money they gave them on drugs and fun. But the night was not quite going as Patti thought, probably because why in the world would 2 high rollers take her to the fancy schmancy no-tell motel with the neon sign outside that says adults rent by the hour only hotel instead of a nice hotel? Patti gets a little freaked out, so she pardons herself and goes to the restroom and she tries to call Dean. Dean doesn't answer. So she stays in there a little bit longer and calls him, and she finally gets him, and he says, I can't come and get you. I actually got in a fight with this Hispanic guy and he broke my nose. That's, yeah. Apparently he used that same story one time when he came home to Rags at the Louvier's mansion. He said that almost the exact same story. He came late because he got in a fight with a Hispanic guy who broke his nose.
Change it up, buddy.
Yeah. But I guess you're never going to think that your current wife is going to be talking to your drug addict future girlfriend either.
That's true.
This was around 2:30 in the morning. Dean apologized, said, I can't do it. I can't get you. So Patti was like, okay. So she comes out of the bathroom, and when she does, the two men, Ricardo and Joseph, stand up. Apparently, when she was in the bathroom, Diana, I guess the only way I can say this is she scolded the two men, kind of berating them like, well, are you going to do it or not? Sort of, I'm kind of attacking their manhood a little bit. So when Patti came out, the two men stood up, and Ricardo actually started strangling her with his bare hands. Now, when he realized his bare hands were not going to be able to kill her, it's a little bit harder than you think, he demanded Joseph give him a belt. The trio had already messed up the plan because the details that they had come up with originally were not supposed to include killing Patti at the hotel, because if they did that, there's going to be some other issues that come along. Not only leaving evidence behind, but, we have a body. And with a hotel of this...
What do we do with it?
Well, with the hotel of this fancy caliber, renting by the hour, there's always people coming and going all day, all night. And that would make getting a body out of the hotel a problem.
And I'm sure collecting DNA would even be horrible.
Just think about
a nightmare.
Sheets. I just always think about sheets. And then also like the carpet, like walking barefoot on the carpet.
Everything. Yeah.
Disgust. The Brainiacs decided, hey, what are we going to do with their body? I don't know what we're going to do. Hey, let's just go get some trash bags and we can put her in that. But first, we're going to have to go to the store to get it. And the store has over 25 surveillance cameras in it. So you can clearly see these two smart fellas talking about which would be a better bag for her body, which would be better to get rid of it, the sizes, all that stuff. While they're out shopping and being captured on surveillance video this whole time, Diana was back at the hotel with the now dead Patti, and she needed to go and rent the room for another 3 hours for, a total of 6 hours, because they're going to run out of their 3-hour window and they need a little bit more time. You can't make this up. When the men returned, they tried to squeeze Patti into a few bags, but was unable to do it. So they decided...
Shouldn't have got the garbage can, 13 quart.
Got to get the bigger ones.
The better one.
Yep.
13 gallons, I mean.
So they finally figured out how to do it, and that would be that they needed to fold her body completely in half to get her to fit in the bag. When they did that, they broke 15 of her ribs and then stuffed her into the air conditioning duct. The three left the Del Mar and tossed Patti's purse and shoes into a bag along with some towels that they used to wipe up the blood. They threw that in a dumpster behind a drugstore that they had stopped at to get some cigarettes and a few other things. People just keep going on with their life.
Sorry, let's stop getting rid of the body. I need some smokes. Could you get me a Snickers while you're at it?
It really satisfied. After they threw everything into the dumpster behind the store, Diana placed a call. These people just are not smart. I'm sorry. Diana placed a call at around 6:30 in the morning to Christopher Mosley back in Connecticut. Getting his answering machine, she simply says, Patti's no longer going to be a problem, and hangs up. Nobody's going to put that together, right?
No, not at all.
Christopher then sent Diana and Ricardo 2 plane tickets. The pair would fly first class to Philly to arrive at the airport, where they were met by an assistant of Christopher's. I think it might have been his chauffeur or a butler. And he gave the two a package. And the package would contain an additional $15,000 for their job, for their mission, rather, because, Operation Dean mission. The two immediately hopped back on a plane and returned to Vegas with their money.
Best place to go with a lot of money, right?
Well, that's
because you're sure to save it there.
Now, this brings us up to August 5th, the day the body of Patti was discovered. After the media covered the story that afternoon, Dean went to police informing them that his girlfriend had been missing, and he had just witnessed, or I guess watched, a news story on TV about it. Police are thinking, which, they always do, okay, wow, the guy that did it just walked in, we got him. So they interview Dean, and at first, they're positive he's the killer, as this is so often the case. But after checking phone records, they were able to see that Dean was not near the Del Mar Hotel that night. They used his records along with Patti's phone to see, that she had placed that call to him right around 2:30 in the morning. And that was somewhere else. Dean goes on to say, I'm not your guy, but I know exactly who did this. My stepfather, Christopher, and his assistant, Diana.
Dirty Diana.
Police are on it. They reach out to Diana, who tells them that she was at the Hilton earlier with Christopher, Patti, and Dean, but she left Patti there when she left. Police counter that with her signature at the Del Mar check-in desk, where she used her very own name. She didn't even use her fake stage name, right? She used her real name to check in. So
she didn't want anybody to recognize her, Camille. Can't use a stage name.
At this point, Diana can't talk fast enough and tells them any and everything. She even provides police with all the notes and exchanges she had with Christopher, as well as the full name of her accomplices. Now, this is obviously all great stuff, but the police, they're going to need a little bit more. Cue Dean. Now, Dean had always hated Christopher and, in fact, had a little nickname for him, and that was Mummy's Pet Rat. He would recall his stepfather, his mummy's pet
Bet you
rat.
Thanksgivings were fun.
Dean agreed to wear a wire, and the idea was to try to get Christopher to talk. While Christopher did implicate himself, it still wasn't enough. At this point, the police, they figure, what do we have to lose? They're positive Christopher was in on this. They just need to put it all together. So instead of wasting their time and doing all this, the police decide, hey, let's just fly out there to that estate, the Serendip estate, and we'll pick him up and talk to him. And boy, did they pick the right day to have a little chat with them. This, my friend, this played out like a Lifetime movie in my head. So you see, Lisa Dean had created and given Christopher a present. He was her gardener and her chauffeur, but I do believe that the two of them truly loved each other. I think Lisa was the power player. I think Christopher was one of the, and I love this phrase, one of the people that did the documentary that I watched, referred to Christopher. He was still the hired help, but he had bedroom privileges. And I was like, that's totally true. I totally see that. I like that. So Lisa wanted to give Christopher something that he could do, something that he would, I guess, keep him busy, lack of a better word. So she gave him the Fieldstone Golf Club. And the idea here was that Christopher would manage the club. These are rich people. There's nothing that goes small, right? Everything's a party. So on this very special day, the couple were hosting a very elaborate black tie event to celebrate the opening with all of their rich friends. They would be attending, you see. And this is the day that the police arrive and decide that they need to talk to Christopher. So I said this is a Lifetime movie.
Perfect timing, yeah.
So when they arrive, Christopher's in his tux, and he agrees to speak to police without a lawyer. He doesn't need a lawyer. He didn't do anything. Christopher has a bit of an attitude. He was defiant about having nothing to do with the murder of Patti. And that was until police decided to blame Lisa Dean for this and see how he reacted. So basically, they go in and say, you know, we think Lisa did all this, that she forced you to do this. Christopher's tune immediately changes, and he wants to make sure Lisa would not be in any trouble for any of this. And he finally admits that he acted alone, and Lisa had no idea what he did. He would say that Lisa had nothing to do with this, didn't know what happened, wasn't in on the planning, nothing. Christopher Mosley was arrested and taken in for the murder of Patti Margello.
So he loved her, is what I'm thinking, correct?
I think he really did, and I think she supported him all the way up till the end. Christopher placed a call to Lisa to inform her of his arrest, and then Lisa spoke to police and remained calm. Almost too calm. Police say that they will be arriving at Serendip momentarily because they want to interview her, and she responded, sarcastically, "I can hardly wait." Lisa informed authorities while she had nothing to do with the murder of Patti. She wasn't sad about it, not sad about it at all. Lisa was smug as she denied playing a role in the case. Lisa would continue her love and support to Christopher all the way to the end, through the trial and all that stuff. Diana Haranaga was hopeful that she could work with the authorities so she could get a lesser sentence, not as severe as life. She fessed up and said, hey, you know, Christopher Mosley not only wanted me to kill Patti, but he wanted me to kill Dean as well. Well, everybody's pretty shocked about that, especially Lisa, I would think, as his mother.
I would think so. Christopher
Mosley and Diana Haranaga pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit murder for hire, and they implicated Margello and Balagnese as the actual killers. Haranaga was sentenced to 15 and a half years in federal prison. She was released in 2012. Ricardo Margello, who was actually the one that first started strangling Patti, was convicted and sentenced to 2 life terms in federal prison. Joseph Balagnese was sentenced to 25 years in prison, and he is out. He was released on parole. Christopher Mosley died at age 63 from natural causes in federal prison in 2004. Simpson Dean McGagan died in 2013 at the age of 56 after succumbing to his long, unnamed illness. Lisa Dean Mosley died in 2016 at the age of 87, never serving a day in prison or ever claiming she was involved.
It's about white.
It's about white? Is that what you said? Because they all are
That's
white.
That's exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said.
That is the case of Lisa Dean and
the DuPonts.
The DuPonts. Now, here's my thoughts. Christopher was, like I said, the hired help with bedroom privileges.
Mm-hmm.
If Lisa didn't know about anything, she had no idea what was going on. Where did Christopher get the money to pay them? You know, she kept a tight rein. And here's the thing. All 3 of her husbands that she married, even though they weren't from bad families, they weren't poor by any means. I mean, considering you and I, that they would be from pretty well-to-do families. But they were always underneath her, meaning they were always lower than her. She maintained the money. It was always her money. She had more money, had more power and control. That's why I think she didn't go to the funerals, because she couldn't be less than. She couldn't be human, I guess, in the eyes of everybody else.
Or in her eyes, she couldn't let people see how she's human.
And to help
maybe.
I agree. And to help maintain that control, I think that's why she picked these people that would be, below her. That was super shocking in the 50s that she would leave her husband. They were both, social people in the circles in New York. Her OBGYN, that's unheard of. And he's a doctor. Mm-hmm. And then to, hire a gardener and then eventually marry him, that was unheard of. But it was said that she really did love him, and she stayed supportive of him till he passed away, and was said to be heartbroken when he died. Now, Christopher Mosley, apparently, he kind of liked jail, okay? Honestly.
As much as one can like jail.
Well, and I got the story. It's from a Vanity Fair article from Dominic Dunn. I love Vanity Fair articles. I love Dominic Dunn. Period.
Dominic Dunn.
So,
and is Griffin Dunn.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Always had a crush on Griffin Dunn.
Me too.
Always.
Me too. So then I watched Power, Privilege, and whatever, one of those episodes, and they did that. So this was all that combined with news articles and things like that. All the credit goes to Dominic Dunn. And if you want to read, obviously the article has, I think it was 60 pages in like a doc. So, but that had like the ads and stuff from Vanity Fair. So it wasn't that long. But there's a lot more in there that he had. He went to the...
Well, you'll link it, won't you?
Yeah, of course.
Link everything?
Mm-hmm. He went to the trial. He met with Rags. He met with... Lisa Dean would not meet with him. And just interesting. But he commented, it was either him or one of the other people. And Dominic Dunn has since passed away. Christopher Mosley was said he liked jail because he was a lifelong military man. And then when he got out of the military, he worked under Lisa Dean, who, operated pretty much like the military. Like I said earlier, he quit smoking for 3 weeks, and she said, I'm going to divorce you unless you start smoking again. The police officer said when they went into the Serendip estate, it was almost stuck in a time warp, and they smoked in there nonstop. So all the walls were yellow, and it was hazy and just smelly.
Oh, yeah.
And just, I
can get bad.
I went and looked all this up because I wanted to know what the estate looked like. So I went on Zillow, rabbit hole, went on Zillow, and that's where I found out it sold in 2018. But they have pictures of it. And it was like, to me, it was like something that you would think would be very fancy 150 years ago. But to me, I kept thinking, that's all the bigger the kitchen is? Because you think mansion, but they didn't. It was just a different time and land. And
it's because they had help. It wasn't them in the kitchen. They had help in the kitchen. You can still go to the big houses like in Westmoreland Place and all those here in St. Louis. And now I know this was a couple years ago, or I should say 10 years ago, but we went into one. They had an estate sale there. When I walked in, I thought Marsha Brady was going to come out somewhere because it hadn't been updated since the 70s. And the kitchen was super tiny. Like, I don't even think the oven was big enough to put a turkey in for Thanksgiving.
do they call those gallery kitchens? What are they? They're tiny.
Galley.
kitchen.
But this is smaller than a galley kitchen. I mean, it was really tiny. Like, I had an apartment that had a bigger kitchen than that mansion did.
Bigger houses became a thing later, for the most part.
Right. Well, even right now, if you go to the Limp Mansion, look how small the Limp Mansion is.
And that was
which
fancy. Whew.
Yeah, I mean, for those that don't know, the Limps were a big brewery magnate, and they were as big as Anheuser-Busch at one point, if not bigger.
Oh, I would say they were bigger.
They lost all their money during the Prohibition. And you always, let's go to the Limp Mansion. Let's go to the Limp Mansion. Well, any McMansion nowadays is probably twice as big as that mansion.
Oh, totally.
So the first time I went there, I was really disappointed because it was just a house.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can only imagine. And when I was little, my paternal grandparents were major smokers. Like, my grandma smoked 2 packs a day, and grandfather did cigars and smoked. And when they died of emphysema, I know you're shocked, but that they passed of emphysema. And I was little, like 6. I remember taking pictures off the walls, and the walls were actually white and not like the yellowy cream that I thought it was. Mm-hmm. There was so much nicotine. So I can only imagine.
I like stories like this because it's just so far from my world. Mm-hmm. The fact that she controlled how things went. The fact, and I was talking to my coworker this week because he saw me doing this, and I was kind of staring off into space, and I was just thinking about this life. For instance, a lot of these rich kids develop drug problems. And part of it, I think, I could be wrong, is no accountability. They don't go to college, but they don't have to work. They don't have to have a career. They already have money. They have trust funds and boredom. So they start doing drugs. I'd like to be off work and have fun and do things, but I couldn't do that every single day. That couldn't be my job. I don't think it would be for most people because you do get bored. So I think maybe they were doing that. There's also, as I was staring off into space, I was just thinking that from a little bitty kid, they strip down and take a shower and they throw their clothes on the floor, and there's a helper right there, right behind them to pick it up.
They really don't have their parental oversight either.
No, they're being...
From what I gather, I mean, I've never been a part of that society, but I would think that the parents always being off at the galas, and they would have a nanny that raised them and a mother that probably wasn't really involved too much in their life.
And just...
Or a father, for that
Jen,
much.
Hey, I think we're going to take the jet over to Saint-Tropez next week. You want to come? Princess Stephanie is having a soiree. Just like that whole idea of, it's just so far removed from...
See, it's so much better that we're poor, isn't it?
No, but...
Our kids... Look how good our kids will turn out because we're not rich.
I do have to say this, too. And Rob Lowe, I've loved you ever since forever. However, this is my mind's not right. If you know me, hence why I apologize for my slang. And sometimes I assume people know what I'm thinking. I always think that what I do is normal, and then people tell me I'm weird. So whatever. But when I was writing this and thinking about these great people, I remember when Rob Lowe dated Princess Stephanie? It was
Princess Stephanie.
Dated her. And I did read his autobiography, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I would totally do it again. But part of the book was talking about his dating her. With Princess Stephanie, he would date her. They would go to these lavish parties and drink and do drugs, I'm assuming, all night long. Sun comes up, they go back, they sleep all day, they wake up and do it again. And Rob Lowe said, everybody thinks that's glamorous. And he said, after a while, I looked at her and I said, is this what you do? And she's like, yes, I'm a princess. This is what I do. And he said, it got boring. And I imagine it would. I mean, everybody would like to be independently wealthy, but come on.
Everybody needs a little bit of
so call me Rob,
I think.
is the point
structure.
Yeah, call me Rob.
Lowe, if you're listening,
Rob, you would
contact Cam at ourtruecrimepodcast.com.
You don't even know. And he's funny. And I've met him. I did meet him when I was in LA.
Didn't you say he was tiny with a really big head like most Hollywood people?
He just wasn't near as tall as I thought he'd be. He was a pretty slight guy.
They're all pretty small.
But they all fib about their height. I'm sorry, Rob. I'm sure you're really tall, but they all can, right? He
may be short in stature, but he's tall in everywhere else. Honesty.
I didn't know where you're going there.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the story of the DuPont. I like the history of that. And I thought it was important to illustrate how the people with money, this goes my way.
Get away with murder.
Literally. This goes my way. And if it doesn't, we're going to make it go my way.
Yeah. And the only way that the mom, Lisa, got away with it is because of who she was. And there's no way they would allow that scandal happen to the DuPont.
And
someone in the DuPont family.
I thought I wrote this. I totally forgot. So John DuPont was the fox catcher from the Foxcatcher Farms. He was the one, the 2 years before Patti was killed, he was the one that killed the Olympic wrestler David, I want to say it's David Schwartz. This is from memory. That was that scandal. So the DuPonts have had quite a bit. There was also somewhere along the line, I think one of them went to prison for molesting a child under 5 or something. So everybody has skeletons in their closet. They just might have
just like the Kennedys.
Closet.
They're just the richer version of the Kennedys, right?
So there you have it. And
it was good. I liked it. Have you been watching anything good lately?
Jen?
My TV fiend.
You know I am. Ready?
It's like friend without the R. Fiend.
TV fiend. That'd be me.
TV fiend.
I highly recommend Ginny and Georgia. Did you start that yet?
I
on
did.
Netflix? Did you like it?
Got like one episode into it and then stopped it and I haven't gone back to it. Doesn't mean I don't like it. It means
you have to get through.
I'm not a TV hound like you.
You have to get, I binged it all last Saturday. You have to get through, I would say probably at least an episode and a half, maybe 2 episodes before it reels you in.
Gotcha.
I really liked it. To me, it was a cross between HBO's Euphoria and then also.
I love Euphoria. Which I need to watch the second half of that. I need to watch the second season.
It's just 2, there's no season. It's 2 interviews. It's an interview with Jules. So then
never mind.
And then one with Rue. I watched that too, of course. I love Rue. Angels. You have to watch it. I really liked it. So I thought it was a cross between Euphoria and HBO's Little Fires Everywhere. I couldn't think of the name of it. So it's got an adult theme plot line, and then it also has a teen plot line. So the teens they're doing drugs and sex and things like that, but not quite like Euphoria. Not that spicy, if you will. There's a little murder thing going on. So you need to watch that. Yeah.
Also, real quick, have you heard about the little boy in Texas? Let me get his.
What'd he do? Is it a nice story or not nice?
No, Sumerian. The little boy in Plano, Texas.
What'd he do?
Ooh, it's bad.
Is this the one that the mom killed him?
Sumerian Humphrey. No. He was befriended by some group of kids. And then he was invited to a sleepover. And the sleepover, they said that, or they befriended him a month, I guess. And then that night, they shot him with BB guns. They hit him in his sleep. They called him all sorts of racial slurs. They peed in cups and made him drink their urine.
What?
Yeah. The school board at this time hadn't done anything about it. And so now I believe the ACLU is involved, and it's pretty damn bad.
Now, see, why would
middle school?
Why would those kids? First of all, why would they ever think that's okay? Wouldn't one of them say, "You know what? I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think it's nice. I don't think we should do this." That's what I'm confused about. I know it's
don't get
mob mentality, but especially at that age, no. Even little 2-year-olds know that they're not supposed to hit you. Like, what's right and wrong. And out of all of them, no one said, I don't think this is a good idea, or not to mention that's terrible.
And I hate to say, where's the parents? But come on, if it's an overnight, if it's a sleepover, you don't check on them? I mean, my daughter's 12, right? The same age as these kids. And when she has sleepovers, I check on them periodically through the night just to make sure they're not doing anything, because that's the age where you start doing everything. You know what I mean?
True.
I mean, you really don't have to pay. I mean, you do for safety reasons when they're younger. But at 12, that's when the shit starts to hit.
That's when they start sneaking out and drinking.
Right. And that's when you start doing things that are unsafe for everyone. But not to parent shame, but that should have.
Well, and I know kids, like, when they're together, make a lot of noise. So I see that. And then also was it a little boy or a little girl?
It was a little boy. And he was crying and he was really upset, but shot with BB guns? Come on.
Kids.
Or that's what they're claiming. I mean, I don't want to.
I know. I'll check that out.
You know how it is, but the little boy's name is Sumerian, capital S-E, capital M-A-R-I-O-N. Last name is Humphreys, and it's from Plano, Texas, and it's
Well, I hope he gets something.
There's video. There is video of him, just couldn't watch it. So that's something to look out for.
That's terrible.
To end on a high note.
That's awful.
Oh, sorry. It is awful. Last thing, a promo from our dear sweet friend Lindsay. She's so sweet. I just love her. Podcast is called Stolen From Me. So everybody listen to the promo and then give her a shot. Give her a listen.
Will do. And thank you. Until next time, Jen, remember, lock your doors.
Keep passing by those open windows.
Bye-bye.
Love ya.
Today's episode was researched and written by me, Cam. For more information about this episode, as well as all the sources I used, please check out our show notes or the podcast website at ourtruecrimepodcast.com. Our True Crime Podcast is developed and created by hosts Jen and Cam. Original music and audio mix of all our True Crime Podcast episodes is courtesy of Nico Vertesi from We Talk of Dreams. Listener discretion is provided by Edward October from October Pod VHS. Our True Crime Podcast is executive produced by Nico Vertesi and Dick Vane. Make sure to like and subscribe to Our True Crime Podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. We can be reached on Instagram and Facebook at Our True Crime Podcast or on Twitter at Our True Crime Pod. You can email us at ourtruecrimepodcast@gmail.com. If you really like the show, make sure to check out our Patreon at Our True Crime Podcast. Our True Crime Podcast is an OTC production.
Hello and welcome to Stolen From Me by Lindsay, a true crime weekly podcast and YouTube channel. I've covered such cases as Molly McLaren, Susan Capper, and Gemma Hayter. Each week, we take a look at each individual case and try to bring as much awareness to it as possible. You can find me on all your favourite podcast platforms and YouTube at Stolen From Me by Lindsay. Thank you and see you all soon. Goodbye.
Oh God, I would be starling as a rich person.
Oh, me too, Jen. Me too.
I could do that. I could kick that shit out of the park. That's one thing I'm good at.
We could hire somebody to be us and do the podcast. But
I always told my dad he would always ask me what I wanted to be, and I would always say a philanthropist. And he's like, well, you got to make money. And I'm like, you better start working harder. So I could, I want to inherit it. I don't want to make it. Where'd you go to college? Flow Valley. You know what I mean? It doesn't.
St. Louis Community College. Yes.
SLCC.
Okay, after college,
which there's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome.
No. That's our caliber, right?
Yeah.
Let's put that out there. That is what we are accustomed to, not the Vanderbilts and the Harvards and the Yales. Right. I was going to say Yarvard.
That works too.
It's MacGuigan. McGagan? MacGagan. I think it's McGagan.
Maguan.
Here.
Somebody will email us and let us know what it was for sure.
No, I gotta say it right, because that's an easy one. I got a couple. If I could get that French one right.
We have a fan who very nicely emails us about an hour and a half after something goes down, or after an episode, and tells us what we do wrong.
Hey, and sometimes sometimes the things that I think are going to be a huge problem, maybe a fact wrong or I said a name wrong, doesn't. And then sometimes there's something that wasn't on my radar, and that's what we did wrong.
No, I know. It's fun. I mean, I appreciate it, but
you just never know.
Exactly.
How to pronounce the
And I think people don't realize a lot of the times when we pronounce things wrong, it's because we have read them. It's not because we have heard them.
Yeah.
And when you read a word and how it's, especially here in St. Louis with all the French words that aren't pronounced in French, it's, yeah. But podcasting is easy.
Well, a lot of times too, if we take this stuff, you put all this at the end so we don't get in trouble for this, but
if it's interesting enough to you, Nico.
But like you said, we get this from a newspaper article. So then you have to put the name through like a search engine to get them to say it. And then it really?
Well, not only that, like the name, or the other time when I had problems with the word fugue, that's not how it looks in writing, right? Like when I think fugue, I think it's F-E-U-G-E, right? But it's F-U-G-U-E. So every time I read the word as one thing, and so every time I read it, that's what I'm reading in my head. And so I've just learned to memorize those letters in that way as what I said when it's actually pronounced differently. Because reading is just memorization. That's all it is. So if you memorize the word incorrectly, it's always going to be that way to you until you fix it.
Hold on, Jen. McGigan. But it's M-A-C, so would that be McGigan?
McGigan? Is it M-A-C lower or M-A-C
M-A-C lower. M-A-C lower, the big G.
McGigan.
Yeah, McGigan.
MacGagan.
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay.
Mac Daddy, MacGagan.
I love Mac Daddy. I love Big Macs. Okay.
Word association fun with OTCP.
So that is our
and for
language.
me, Big Macs are gagging.
Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. Sorry, Nico. Okay, let's reel this up a little bit. Dean got busy doing...
You're getting really good at French.
Thanks, Jen.
You could almost go to Paris and...
I could. Yep. Thank you. Yep. Mulan. Is it Mulan? I don't know. No, Batten. I don't know. Something. Never mind. Cut that out.
Moulin Rouge.
That's what I was trying to get to. Yep. There you go.
See, we're psychic.
The fun stopped, as I mentioned, and Patti soon developed a severe drug issue, and this habit needed to be supported.
Is an issue? Got an issue?
It's got it too.
I've got an issue. It's so dry.
Sorry.
I've been helping my kids with math, and I really am bad at math. In fact, my daughter called me stupid because of it. And
you're stupid in a lot of ways, Jen, but not just because she called you that.
I know. The youngest one decided she was going to do a math test when she had 2 days to do a math test. We're virtual. We go to school virtual. And she decided that she forgot about it. She said she forgot about it, but she put it off till like 10 minutes before it was due. And so she was panicking. So she had me help. So I was trying to help as best as I can because it's percentages, and percentages is kind of can work with money, right? Sales, buying, shopping. So I thought, okay, I could probably do that. And finally we were both so frustrated. She's like, I have a friend that has the answers. And I'm like, go do it. Go do it.
Jennifer.
I was just done with everything. And so she did it. And I'm like, so how'd I do? I know. She goes, so how did I asked her, I go, so how did I do? And she goes, well, you helped me with 4 questions and you got 3 of them wrong. So there you go.
Jen, look at you got one
stupid
right.
at math.
You got one right. You're looking at it wrong.
I know.
Be positive.
I was 25% correct.
That's right. 1 out of 4 is not that bad.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
Yeah. So it's a little disheartening, but that's okay. I'm better at other things.